Hello everyone, here's what's coming up tonight on News Center Now.
If you don't want Alex at the shows or on your property this year, I can make that happen.
Portland chooses to end a contract with Waterfront Concerts because of a domestic violence charge, but the abuser isn't actually cut out of the deal.
She came over and she told us, she was like, everyone, calm down. I'm gonna land the plane, like we're gonna be safe.
Passengers aboard Southwest Flight 1380 were terrified when part of the engine punctured the side of the plane, but a calm and cool woman in the cockpit eased their panic and saved their lives.
This is News Center Now.
The Portland City Council voted to end dealings with Waterfront Concerts because its owner pleaded guilty to misdemeanor domestic violence. Hello, everybody. I'm Lee Goldberg.
And I'm Lindsay Mills. Alex Gray's former girlfriend asked the city to cut ties with him in solidarity with victims of abuse. Christina, the vote was mostly symbolic, though, right?
Yeah, guys, at the most, this is a slap on the wrist. So Billy Currington, Slightly Stoopid, those are just two acts scheduled to perform in Portland this summer. But councilors had to decide which company would handle security, promotions, and preparations. They had three options here: rescind the contract and find someone totally new, contract Waterfront Concerts, or contract the company Live Nation. Live Nation won the vote, but here's the kicker: Alex Gray will likely still be involved.
Choosing to do business with a man like Alex Gray sends a very loud message to our community that in the city of Portland, money trumps morality.
That was the plea by domestic violence victim Erica Cole. Stop all business with Alex Gray. But it's not exactly what happened.
There's no question that the council made a statement that we find domestic violence in any way, shape, or form abhorrent to our values.
The council did make a statement, choosing to cancel contract negotiations for a 16-show concert deal with her abuser's company, Waterfront Concerts, and instead award it to Live Nation. But there's a good chance Alex Gray still makes the money.
I am a vice president of Live Nation.
Live Nation typically contracts Gray's employees to run main concerts, meaning he won't own the contract, but he will get the business. Councilor Thibodeau feels it was a fair compromise and doesn't think the city can banish Mr. Gray forever because of his record.
We have to accept those folks back into our society.
Mayor Ethan Strimling, however, doesn't think the council went far enough, especially after hearing testimony from Live Nation's vice president.
Maybe these charges are erroneous. Maybe they're not really true.
Bob Duteau says he doesn't believe Erica's story and doesn't think Alex should be punished.
The person who came up and defended Alex and basically was saying, we looked at the facts and we believe Alex, and I believe Erica.
Mayor Strimling wanted to do away with Live Nation and Alex Gray altogether, starting Portland's concert series planning from scratch. But he was outnumbered. The question now is whether or not Live Nation will work with Alex Gray, a question that the VP won't answer.
I don't know the answer.
He has two options: contract with Alex and use hundreds of Maine employees, or bus in employees from Massachusetts.
I'd rather keep as many local people as possible, but that doesn't mean Alex has to be here.
Can you eliminate him getting our money?
So the city council made a statement about domestic violence, but now Live Nation is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do business with Alex Gray or hire help from away, costing Mainers jobs. The city of Bangor has also come under scrutiny for its decision to contract Alex Gray's company. Bangor city councilors say the contract leaves them no room to get out of it. We had a lawyer look over that contract, and he said it's true that there's no way to void that contract based on Gray's personal behavior. Now, Gray made a deal in court. If he follows 22 court-ordered conditions, that domestic violence charge will be dropped from his record completely come October.
All right, Christina, thank you. This is obviously something a lot of people have been talking about now for months. So
absolutely.
Thank you for keeping us updated on that. All right, we're going to look outside where, just
gloomy.
Come on, man. Like, seriously, it's end of April. Let's go.
Gray skies
Come
for
on.
days.
Could have been a lot worse, though, right? I mean, we did see some sun today. No? All right.
A little bit.
I tried.
Crickets.
Yeah, it was
Crickets.
Otherwise, some showers out there and a little bit of snow mixing into the mountains as we talked about yesterday. Overall, the precipitation, though, intensity has been relatively light. One more batch of moisture that's falling apart across Massachusetts. So I don't think overnight tonight you'll be seeing heavy downpours or heavy snow in the mountains. All of this is light stuff, but to their point, not exactly a pleasant evening out there and through the first couple of hours of tomorrow. Temperatures in the low 40s along the coastline. We could see a few sleet pellets ping into this equation late tonight, early tomorrow morning along the coast. Otherwise, it is wet snow and sleet in the higher terrain. Hour by hour forecast pulls most of this moisture out of here by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is a decent day. It's not amazing. There'll be some breaks of sunshine in there, but also a couple of showers in the afternoon as temperatures rise into the low 50s before those showers wane on Friday night. After that, we carve out our nicest stretch of the season so far. I know that's not saying much, but it starts on Saturday and goes through much of next week. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
There is no reliable evidence showing how Prince obtained the counterfeit Vicodin laced with fentanyl.
No one will be charged in connection with Prince's death by fentanyl. Today, a prosecutor in Minnesota said they just couldn't find the person who gave tainted pills to the music legend. Officials say that the counterfeit medicine looked almost exactly like the real thing.
A new Barbara Bush Children's Hospital license plate could raise $200,000 a year for the medical facility. One day after the former First Lady's passing, the Maine legislature voted to approve the specialty plate. Governor LePage signed it into law late this afternoon. Each plate purchased would equal $10 for the hospital, just $10 there. The former First Lady spent her summers in Kennebunkport, but in the winter she was at home in Texas.
Yeah, last night Houston City Hall was illuminated blue in her honor, and in a few hours the people of East Texas will gather to celebrate Mrs. Bush's life. Janelle Fort has our story.
Well, yeah, here outside of City Hall, the preparations are beginning for that celebration of life for former First Lady Barbara Bush. As you can see, they've got the chairs laid out. They're getting stuff ready to go behind us for those many speeches and performances that are scheduled today. Now, a number of spiritual leaders are going to talk, as well as the Houston's Children's Choir. They're going to perform, and they're actually a Bush family favorite. Now, this is huge celebration for the woman known as a matriarch of not only her presidential family, but of the city of Houston. Now, right across the street in the Bush Literacy Plaza, they're actually putting out different mementos and flowers. And the interesting thing about that is that after this whole thing is done, they're going to take those items and they're going to archive them over at the library. So just lots going on today. They're asking anyone that comes out today to wear your blue and your pearls for the former First Lady, because as we all know, Miss Bush loved the color blue. And of course, she was always seen donning those pearls. Of course, there's also the public viewing tomorrow here in Houston at St. Martin's Church, and then the funeral is this Saturday. But to note, it is not open to the public. It is by invitation only. Reporting here in Houston, Janelle Fort, back to you.
And Chris Costa is actually on his way to Texas right now. He'll be speaking with Mainers who went to Texas to pay their final respects to Mrs. Bush. We'll have that story tomorrow night here on Now.
And on News Center Maine tomorrow at 7, a First Lady's Legacy, a half-hour tribute to Mrs. Barbara Pierce Bush. You can watch on air on our News Center Maine app or stream live on Facebook. A man pretending to be a child services worker walks right into a South Portland home.
Didn't present any form of identification, didn't provide a name. So in this case, the resident did the right thing and contacted the police.
Yeah, it's a strange story, but it comes with an important warning for Maine families. That story is coming up next.
Maine's Department of Health and Human Services wants you to be on the lookout for anyone claiming to work for the organization without the proper identification.
On Monday night, a man described to be in his 30s entered a South Portland home, and he claimed to be a DHHS caseworker following up on a complaint. When the resident of the home asked for some ID,
or the person pulled out a cell phone that had that resident's address on it and nothing else, no indication that they were in fact a DHHS worker, didn't present any form of ID, indicated at that point that everything was fine, and quickly walked out the door, get into a red four-door vehicle, and left the area.
Now, DHHS wants to remind people that all employees are issued an identification card and are instructed to keep that card on them during work hours. Employees are not allowed to refuse to show that ID when asked. The ID cards show the logo, a picture of the employee, the name and title of the employee, and a number to contact if the ID card is lost.
Meanwhile, South Portland police say they are looking for an Asian man who took off in a red car with 4 doors. If anyone has information, you are asked to contact police. Passengers say if your plane loses an engine, you want this woman in the cockpit.
We just got lucky. We had the right pilot for that event.
Survivors of the Southwest mid-flight crisis say this pilot is a hero.
And the sun is fighting to get out. We've seen some snippets over the past few days, but the weekend the sun could maybe actually win the battle. Get out your sunscreen. KC's coming up next.
Place the mask over your mouth and nose like this and breathe normally.
Oxygen masks will drop down automatically. Pull the nearest mask over your nose and mouth.
Pull down on the mask to extend the tubing. The yellow cup goes over your nose and mouth like so.
Yeah, it's those safety videos that you only kind of pay attention to at the beginning of every flight, but the emergency landing on a Southwest flight this week proves how important it is to actually know the safety rules before you take off.
In those terrifying moments when their plane dropped out of the sky and a businesswoman was almost sucked out of the hole in the fuselage, everyone in this photo can be seen wearing their safety masks improperly. The mask should cover your nose and mouth. And you have to know what you're doing beforehand so your panic doesn't get in the better of you in an emergency.
Yeah, passengers on board that deadly flight say that their pilot had nerves of steel. She did not let the panic creep in, and that's how she got more than 140 people safely home. Marie Saavedra reports.
What happened on Southwest Flight 1380 ended one life and changed 148 others, including Zachary Coleman's of Cedar Hill.
I was on the side where the window was hit.
When the engine blew, the plane leaned sharply and started dropping. They lost pressure and a passenger. But in the middle of it all, Coleman heard a strong voice from the Texan in the cockpit.
She came over and she told us, she was like, everyone, calm down. I'm gonna land the plane, like we're gonna be safe.
It's the same calm and conviction heard on air traffic control.
No, it's not on fire, but part of it's missing. They said there was a hole and someone went out.
I'm sorry, you said there was a hole and somebody went out?
That is Captain Tammy Jo Schultz. And her friends in San Antonio expect nothing less.
It sounded just like her, calm, cool, and collected. So that's how she is and everything. Things don't really ruffle her.
It makes sense when you look at her resume. Schultz is among the first female fighter pilots for the Navy and was behind the controls of the FA-18. Back then, women could not fly combat, so she taught the men who could. She brought that grit and a heart to Southwest and to the passengers on that fateful flight.
She's very much so got a gentle heart that wants people to feel loved and feel important, and I think that's what we've heard.
With that, Schultz joins a club no pilot wants to be a part of, alongside Sully Sullenberger, who landed in the Hudson after losing both engines. But notoriety is one thing, saving lives is another, and the souls on board this plane can't thank Schultz enough.
We just got lucky. We had the right pilot for that event.
Now, passengers are calling her a hero, but Captain Schultz says that she, her first officer, and the crew all feel like they were just doing their jobs. She went on to say that the crew's hearts are heavy from the loss of passenger Jennifer Riordan, and they are thinking of her and her family. Their focus now is in interviews with investigators to get a better sense of what went wrong and what they did correctly.
But the big question here is really what went wrong with the plane. An engine fan blade snapped off mid-flight, and investigators must find out if any other engines are at risk. The Federal Aviation Administration ordered inspections of an estimated 220 aircraft. The notice comes nearly a year after the engine's manufacturer recommended additional inspections of fan blades on many Boeing 737s.
So while investigators are trying to figure out what happened here, the question is, should we be afraid to get in airplanes and actually fly?
I know, the thoughts crossed my mind, so that's what we're talking about today in Brain Drop. So we are joined now with Keith Carson.
Well, I think everybody knows that flying is safer than driving, right, statistically, but I wanted to put some numbers to that. And none of this, of course, to diminish the loss of the passengers that we just had or anybody who dies in an airplane, but it's all about the numbers of it. And so this, what we're looking at is United States road fatalities from driving over the past several years. So you'll notice they're relatively consistent between 33,000 and 37,000 and change. Now, I started at 2009, guys, because that was the last domestic commercial United States airline death. That was in Buffalo. If you remember, there was a de-icing problem and they lost, I think, 40 people there. So I wanted to go from the last time somebody died in the United States on a plane to now. The number I came up with was 295,000 people have died on our roadways in the time that 44 people have died in our air. Now, here's another way to look at the risk, which is death per billion. And if you look at it by kilometers or miles, the best way to look at it, you'll notice that air travel is exceedingly safe and much safer than cars. One thing that surprised me, though, a little bit, guys, buses actually do pretty well. Not better than air travel, but much better than cars, partially because they're regulated and cars driving around this more user error and whatnot.
So, bottom line, wherever you're going, however you get there, be careful.
Yes,
Be careful.
it is. And of course,
Hold on.
What is this?
What does that sound?
What do we got?
Wait, no, hold on.
Wait, is that the sound of Storm Center
Are you having
sweaters?
trouble sleeping?
Flashbacks.
I heard you having trouble sleeping because
I
of
am.
that song. Is that
Oh, look
true?
at that face.
Wait a
Gosh.
second. Is that real?
Is
Because we
that-
heard this from a very reliable source, right?
I think so. You know, my
This is
favorite
the sound
part.
of sweaters sprawled
Right.
out all over your lawn, right?
The favorite part about this is the exhausted face screen capture was before I had the baby.
So this
was literally
this was
before.
from New Maine News today. For those who don't know what we're talking about, apparently they think that Keith is haunted and tormented from the Storm Center theme, which keeps him up at night. Not the birth of his new child. It is the Storm Center theme that keeps him awake.
A comparison
at
side by
night.
side.
Do I look better or worse?
I would say it's a tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. Everybody keeps wanting me to look worse. Not yet, guys. It'll happen eventually. I think
Is
it'll
the
be
forecast looking any better?
much better?
Okay.
That's a transition.
We're not going to hear that music.
Let's do it. Let's do it. It's looking pretty good, actually. For the first time in a while, we're going to carve out several nice days of weather. But it's not today, obviously. We got some rain showers out there, some snow showers in the mountains as well. The moisture with this system is not overwhelming, though. You notice dry air off to our south and west. So it'll be off and on rain showers tonight, snow showers in the mountains, nothing that's going to cause any real problems for travel. Assuming we're done with snow, which I think that we finally are, here's where we ended up for the season. Portland, 92 inches, way above average there, way above average in Bangor and Caribou. Jess, that was top 10 in Bangor, right? Is that what we figured out? Yeah, 7. It's number 7 in Bangor. So a significant year, again, assuming that we're done. Looks like we are. That's the good news. Showers end tonight. Tomorrow is a so-so day, a mixture of sun and clouds, a couple of rain showers out there, but most of the day is dry, and temperatures get into the low 50s by tomorrow afternoon everywhere except for the mountains where it's a little bit cooler. After that, the showers diminish on Friday night and give way to a good-looking day on Saturday. It'll be partly cloudy. There might be a mountain sprinkle, but most of us are dry, sunny, and we get temperatures into the 50s, although I think the better of the 2 weekend days is Sunday. Mostly sunny conditions there, temperatures in the mid-50s by Sunday afternoon. But all in all, the best weekend I can think of that we've had in a while, and we're going to stretch that forward into the next work week as well. Take a look at these forecast high temperatures on Tuesday. Now, what's going to happen on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is that the sea breeze that Maine is famous for will rear its ugly head. So along the coastline, upper 50s on Tuesday. But if you want some warmth, or if you live out here, perfect. Augusta, Lewiston, Sanford, Freiburg, Bangor, upper 60s to around 70 degrees. It'll be the warmest we've been since basically the middle of February. And again, it's not a fluke, which is what I like about it. We string together several nice days before some rain moves in on Wednesday. We should clear out again on Thursday. And looking farther down the line, we should stay relatively mild. You know, remember, mid-50s is not that crazy, but we've just been so below average. So enjoy it starting Saturday all the way through Tuesday afternoon. We're in good shape.
A lot of people are already talking about this. They're pretty excited.
I mean, it has been a rough spring even by our standards, and our standards are pretty low.
I was going to say, the
May.
bar is low.
It is, but it's. I think even people who have been here a long time said this has been a rough spring, so we're going to start to transition out of it just in time for May.
All right.
Great.
Sounds
Yeah.
good, Keith. Thanks so much. Well, in case, like us, you needed something to get you through the rest of the day, tiny bear cubs playing together. These orphans were saved by a wildlife center in Virginia. One set of siblings was found abandoned in the woods. Another was found by a Virginia state trooper after their mother was killed by a car on the highway. The newest cub was found Tuesday. Employees at the center say the key to the cubs surviving once released back into the wild is limited human interaction.
Very common for people to see a cub, think it's super cute, and want to pick it up and hug it like a teddy bear, but we have seen some very bad things happen in those situations.
Might be the only pet I don't have. The plan is to release the cubs back into the wild next April, and do not give my wife any ideas.
Hashtag truth.
We have ideas of what's coming up at News Center at 5:30. Pat Callahan's going to fill in those details for us. Hey, Pat.
Expect me to follow the bear cubs. Thanks a lot. The new National Monument is bringing a lot more tourists to the Katahdin region, but it's also driving up housing prices. Now, after months of work, some more affordable living spaces will be available in downtown Millinocket. We'll check that out. Also ahead, a dispute over a high school principal may have driven someone to send threatening messages to Scarborough school officials. We'll get the latest on that dispute and a lot more coming up at 5:30.
All right, Pat, thanks so much. Stay with us. More now when we come back.
All right, I know we're supposed to have the viewers send in the stuff that makes them think that's so Maine, but I'm from Maine and I'm a viewer, so I kind of count, and this for me is absolutely so Maine. Oh yeah, Paul Bunyan, baby. That is so Maine. Now, what's really so Maine about that video is how depressingly cloudy the skies were and how cold it was, despite the fact we are like a month into spring.
And I love how you're not standing far enough away from him because you had to pan and then also tilt up.
Yes.
You know, all we saw was the boots.
That is so Maine for me, the big Paul Bunyan statue.
The Paul Bunyan, all right. Our other That's So Maine moment comes to us today from Westbrook when a police officer played cowboy for a day. Officer Garrett McCarthy was called for a runaway horse. He found the animal and then waited, keeping it calm until the owners arrived. But it kind of looks like the horse was just fine waiting on its own, having a snack on this person's lawn. The Post says, great job, Officer McCarthy, protecting and serving not just our two-legged population, but also our four-legged friends. And we have another picture from today. This one is from Sea Parody Photography, engagement photos, decked out in funny socks and matching LL Bean boots. I like those socks.
If you see anything that makes you think, that is so Maine, take a picture of it safely, please, and then post it using the hashtag That's So Maine, or you can share it with us on Facebook. And there are so many things since we started this where I'm now seeing everything.
You are? I was going to say,
normal stuff in my everyday that I would never even think twice, and I go, okay, that is so Maine.
Maybe
and
that's
because
so I'm from away. I have the opposite opinion. Now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. But before I was able to find it, no problem.
Where are you from? Away?
Well, away.
Whatever. News Center
hey,
at 5:30.
At least I own up to it.
No. Let the Mainer talk. News Center at 5:30 is going to start right now.